Okay, Falcha, welcome, Fesker Ma. I'm Anna Wendy Stevenson. I'm program leader for the BA in Applied Music, and it's lovely to see so many friends here today to help celebrate and talk about our milestones and the applied music journey. So it's been 10 years since we applied music came to the University of the Highlands and Islands in 2011. That's when we started developing the program. And then that was closely followed by the MA Music and the Environment. We've had a really great year this year. We've kind of got a hat trick of 100%, three times for the National Student Survey, which is the satisfaction the student satisfaction survey, and we've also recently won a national award, the Collaborative Award in Teaching Excellence. So today we're just wanting to get together and talk about the opportunities and have some reflective discussion. And so we're going to be talking to some of our friends, applied music friends, graduates, current students, and also staff. So I'm going to start by welcoming our rector for the University of the Highlands and Islands, Fiona McLean. Fiona, it's just absolutely lovely to have you join us in this conversation this afternoon. Thank you.
Morning, and Feskerman, thank you so much for asking me this afternoon. I'm really pleased to be here. It's actually a really special time for our students, alumni, staff, and other stakeholders, with the University of the Highlands and Islands celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. So I think it's rather fitting that that Applied Music is also celebrating its 10th anniversary in the same year as UHI. And the reason why I say this is because I feel that applied music actually exemplifies what is excellent about UHI. Applied music demonstrates the innovation that we aspire to have in UHI. It's a practical degree for the 21st century with a blended learning approach. UHI was formed as a collaborative, and applied music is designed and delivered as a collaborative by professional musicians, educators, and industry experts. UHI, of course, is of and for the people of the Highlands and Islands, but it's increasingly reflecting the culture and the communities of the whole of Scotland and beyond. And applied music is rich in traditional cultures and has built strong communities of practice throughout Scotland. UHI has strived to deliver excellence for its students, and applied music has been, I would say, a beacon of excellence, winning a number of awards. And significantly, some of its students have gone on to be hugely successful professional musicians, and others continue just to enjoy making music. So I'm absolutely delighted to join you in this 10th anniversary celebration for one of the University of the Highlands and Islands' most innovative, rooted, hugely successful and just downright enjoyable courses. So here's to the continuation of the applied music journey. Morning time.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Thank you very much for that very welcoming address there. And yes, you have summarized how we feel about also the applied music degree, reflecting some of the purpose and the mission of the University of the Highlands and Islands. I mean, the University of the Highlands and Islands has that it reminds me of the Thomas Telford's bridges, which were developed to connect, bridges and roads, which were developed to connect in the 1800s the various regions that make up the Highlands and Islands. And we attempt to do that with applied music, but this year we've actually managed to go international. So we've been approved earlier on this year to deliver the BA in applied music to students wherever they may be. So it's one of the kind of beauties of the degree. But before I go on talking about where we are with applied music right now, I think what's really interesting is if we look back. So I'm going to, because we wouldn't be here without Mark Sheridan. And Mark Sheridan is a composer and an academic, a scholar. And Mark, I've known Mark for many years, had the pleasure of working as a musician myself with Mark, and then in academia when Mark brought the BA Applied Music to and the concept to the University of the Highlands and Islands. And I want to welcome you, Mark, and ask if you'd like to give us a few words and reflections on that, on what was your mission with applied music?
Well, thank you, Anna Wendy, and it's delightful to see so many people here today, and with such a wonderful contemporary manifestation of applied music through UHI. We're able to meet everyone like this, so many people turning up to celebrate 10 years of the course at University of the Highlands and Islands. Of course, the journey starts 30 years ago in 1991, and I know many of you will think I'm too young to remember that far back. But I was head of music at Jordan Hill College at that time, and I was actually in Dunoon waiting in a ferry coming back to the mainland, back across the Clyde, when on Radio Scotland I heard that Jordan Hill College and the University of the Strathclyde were merging. There was a lot of mergers going on at that time. And it struck me that this was a great opportunity to do something different. Strathclyde didn't have a music department. I had been working during the 1980s into the 90s on curriculum change at national level for schools and colleges and so on. And we had multi-genres of music, big transformation from the old O grade. We had music for all was the catch-all phrase that we were working on. And so I decided that what we needed was a access for higher education for all these young musicians who were coming through now, for traditional musicians, jazz musicians, rock musicians, singers, songwriters, pop musicians, as well as classical musicians, because there was no other route for them. The RSAMD at that time began in 1996 to take traditional musicians, and others followed. But the University of Strathclyde broke new ground, and we took the first students in 1993. And the concept also included the idea of bringing in music technology and the comprehensive musician. Everyone would perform. There would also be composers. There would also be analysts, listeners and historical context, the comprehensive musician. But we also had strands for business acumen, community music, which was growing at that time. It was still very young in the 1980s and 90s, and in education. So it was a holistic approach that musicians could come in, any genre, take one of these strands and go through and develop their career. And over 20 years, it was a real melting pot of all these musicians coming with many, many different strands and strengths. In jazz, we had people like Konrad Wisniewski, Paul Towndrow, Alan Koska, singer-songwriters like Jimmy Dogood, and our own Peter Noble. And in traditional music, it broke new ground for many, many traditional musicians, including people like Martin O'Neill, Anna Massey, Alistair McCulloch, and I could go on. There was many, many hundreds. At one time, applied music was attracting 400 or 500 applicants a year in its heyday, and that was a mark of its success and its appeal. And we actually have one of the graduates here today, and many of you will recognise Julie Fowlis. So delighted to see Julie. Julie, you decided to apply for applied music. We'll not talk about the years that you were there, but why applied music and what did it do for you? I think people would be delighted to hear that, Julie.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's lovely to be part of this conversation. And I also, since the invite, I've been thinking back about the audition process and the thought that went into the application. And I suppose I should fess up at this point and say I was never confident enough a musician to apply for a music course. So originally I had sent away my UCAS form for 6 other different courses. And at the very last minute, I really, really wanted to study music secretly. And I got the form back from the office, and I am so old that I Tipexed out the pen and put in 5 music courses and 1 backup of something else. And I was lucky enough to get auditions for all of them. And when I went down to Strathclyde, when I walked in the doors of Jordan Hill, I remember the buzz of the place. That was a thing, thinking back to the audition experiences, those formative, meeting people, seeing the building, seeing the places, and the feel of the course. It was the applied music course that stood out to me. The music I was hearing from the practice rooms, the people buzzing about, the happy vibe that was there, and also markedly the different styles of music that I was hearing walking through those corridors. To do that at that very first audition. And I probably didn't realize at the time, but just that breadth, the choice and the opportunities that we all got as students, as Mark was saying, to look at education, music in the community, technology, which I'd never had a chance to look at before. There were all these strands, and for many musicians, and myself included, we didn't really know which strand we wanted to follow in that very first year. But actually, looking back, I think most musicians that I know use parts of all of those strands in our professional lives now. We use bits of all of them. And I feel really lucky to have had the chance to go on that course.
And Julie, originally you were not really, your route wasn't just only into traditional music. You were an oboe player, and a very fine one at that. So how did you get into traditional music in such a way? And did applied music help with that? I think it must have done.
It definitely did. I mean, again, without going into the numbers and the age, when I was in school, there was no, we couldn't study traditional music at exam, at exam level. We couldn't take it as a standard grade or a higher discipline. So I studied classical music. I was lucky enough to get the chance to play the oboe, and that's what I went on to study. But I always loved trad music. I played the pipes, played in a pipe band, and I did a wee bit of singing here and there. And one of the loveliest parts of the course in those early years was there's a performance module where you're expected over the course of the year to commit to, I think it was 2 or 4 performances with different groups, and they had to be different styles of music as well. So I remember, playing kind of woodwind trio pieces. I remember playing, singing Gaelic songs with Martin and the likes, but also singing Aretha Franklin in, some concerts. There was just an amazing opportunity to collaborate and to create music with other musicians from different disciplines. And part of that joy for me was getting to connect with other traditional musicians on the course. And we played, I guess, formally for modules, for specific modules and for marks, but also we played for the joy of it, and sessions, and that quickly led to opportunities to go and play like Lorient in Brittany and quickly further afield. So I owe those sessions an awful lot.
That's really good to hear, Julie. Listen, Julie's going to stay with us during this conversation, but I think we'll hand back to Anna Wendy. But thanks for that, Julie, and we'll hear more later. But Anna Wendy, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. Lovely to hear your applied music journey. And we're going to go from Julie's traditional music background to another traditional musician, Margaret Robertson, who is one of our graduates from applied music. Hello, Margaret.
Hello, Anna Wendy.
Hello. Delighted to have you here. Margaret is a very, very fine fiddler. Margaret Robertson, MBE, and director of Haltibun Hoga. Is that correct?
That's
and maybe Margaret's from Shetland, and you were in our very first cohort of applied music students with the University of the Highlands and Islands. So Margaret, tell us a little bit about, what attracted you to applied music?
I think when, again, going back, when I left school, it was very much a case of get a proper job, don't study music. It was not encouraged. So I was encouraged, in actual fact, to become a home economics teacher. And I'm absolutely certain that that was a very narrow escape for lots of children and myself, that didn't actually happen. I was fortunate that at the time, tuition in Shetland was really kind of mushrooming through schools for traditional fiddle. And I was approached when I left school to actually start as an instructor. So having got in as an instructor with no qualifications, aged 16, I figured that here was an opportunity many, many years later to actually get the qualification for the job that I'd been doing for a long, long time. And I suppose it was opportunity, and also just the fact that I could keep working and actually access the course. And that was a really, really big thing. It meant I could stay at home in Shetland with my family. I could still study full-time as well as work full-time. And that was really one of the main attractions, to back up my experience with the paperwork, if you want, but also be able to keep going with my job.
Margaret, I think that you'd probably agree that one of the kind of enriching aspects of the course is that opportunity that Julie also talked about collaborating with people from all different areas, all different genres, but like yourself, also people that already have an established career and are looking for that flexibility as well. So did you find that an enriching experience to meet with others that were different genres?
Absolutely, really, to be honest, every aspect of the course was really, really good for me. I'd never done an analysis on a piece of classical music, for instance. So here I was having to step outside my comfort zone and actually listen to classical music and do essays, write essays, work with recording equipment, all aspects. And it really, and yes, again, as Julie said, if you are a performer, you will use every aspect of what the course did. I mean, it calls itself applied music, and that's exactly what it is. It's every aspect of music in one course. And you can therefore, as a youngster, I mean, I was a lot older, and I knew, for instance, I didn't want to become a recording engineer, but if you're a youngster and you're not quite sure what direction of music you want to follow, this course gives you every opportunity to have a very, very solid taster in lots of directions and actually decide where you want to go.
That's very, very interesting, Margaret. How would you, how about the collaborative aspect? Some people might think, how do you collaborate in a blended learning environment?
Well, for us, we did a lot of sharing of files. Again, it's using this wonderful thing, this online thing that's become such a medium, especially in the last couple of years. But we were using, again, lots of technology right from the off, and learning how to use that technology, how to collaborate with others in other areas of Scotland, and meeting for the 4 residentials in the year, which was great fun to actually meet in person and actually play music together rather than just sharing sound files. It's maybe not the ideal thing, but it's a very, very close second when, in fact, you could play music with someone in a different county. And for me, living in Shetland, there was very few of us up there on the course. So again, just the opportunity to make music with others in other areas of the country.
I think that one of the things with COVID is that we've all become very conscious that how we spend our time face to face is something that we need to think about and make the most of. And I think that our residencies, I've got very fond memories, Margaret, of times with you on residencies. They're really intensive, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
they are.
You need to have your batteries fully charged before you go on a residential, but it's great fun. It's great fun.
It's time well used. It means that you know that you're going to go collaborate, and be working long days in many ways, actually replicating the reality for a professional musician, because a professional musician is often having to burn the candle at both ends and just go for it. And that's what happens in our residencies. And actually right now, we have a residency taking place online. We are collaborating, our students. We've given special dispensation from Matt, who you're going to hear from in a minute. But actually Matt would be in a residency right now, collaborating with students from Senegal. And but before we move on to that, I did say to people about Hjalti Bon Hoga, and I feel like people will be thinking, what is that? Why is that Wendy mentioned Hjalti? But I'm interested in you telling us a tiny little bit about that, because actually, you know, it reflects the networks, because you've actually involved some of our graduates in Hjalti. So
yes.
What is Hjalti?
Yeah, Hjalti Bon Hoga is the group that have been basically on the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo for the last seven years of fiddle players. And now, as you say, there's previous students that are now actually part of that group. But because of the internet and the online aspect, we have fiddlers joining us from Australia, New Zealand, Spain, America, Canada, Ireland, as well as native Scotland. And again, the basis of the group is primarily Shetland fiddle players. And of course, if they're learning from me, they're learning in a Shetland style. So hence why we still call ourselves the Shetland Fiddlers of the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo.
It's wonderful, a wonderful story, Margaret. I thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very, very much. I know that you're very busy. So again, thank you so much. I'm going to now introduce Matthew McGoldrick. And Matthew, welcome, Falcha.
Thank you very much, Falcha.
Matthew is the person that I was talking about who has the special dispensation, who's actually busy right now collaborating as part of a residency that we are running with university students in Senegal online. And Matthew joined us in last year, direct entry student into third year after having done an HND. And Matthew's a very fine musician, a bass player, and plays with the band Vegan Leather.
You're very kind. Thanks for saying that.
Oh no, it's just you know, Matthew, it's been such a joy, you know, having you join us. And it's wonderful, you know, having direct entry students join at different parts of their academic journey. And so I'm interested, Matt, tell us a little bit about your experience joining into third year on applied music. There might be potential students out there that are interested.
Yeah, well, to be honest, you kind of said it. It's been a bit of a joy for myself. From going from HND and the course, it's been fantastic. Applied music was the kind of my only choice when I was leaving HND, mostly because the amount of opportunities the course gives you when you finish. Like, I could go into teaching, I could continue on to the masters, I could use the education that I've garnered to apply to my session work, and the people I've met in the course as well. It's been fantastic. Last year, as much as COVID impacted things and I didn't get to meet many of my fellow students, we did meet in the pub for a wee pint now and again, which was good. It's still been fantastic. It honestly feels like I like know you guys. Yeah, I've never met you in person, but the course has been fantastic. Last year was a learning curve doing it all online compared to being in class, but through WebEx, the Brightspace, all the content's there to use. Everything's there to utilise. You guys as well have been any problems I've had with understanding certain things. It's been a breeze in that sense, but it's still a lot of work. It's still a course you need to get stuck into, and it's been thoroughly enjoyable so far. And today's been really enjoyable so far, working with the Senegalese students making music for our Tam Lin project. So it's been fantastic.
Thank you so much, Matt. So one of the other things you also did, like last year, we did last academic year, we did a residency online about music sync.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
tell
it's
us.
the score draw one.
That's right. Yes, we collaborated with a company in Belfast, Score Draw Music, to deliver a residency in music sync. So that means in writing music for visuals, for synchronization. So for film, or it could be for adverts, it could be even to go in amongst audio as well. But it's an emerging area, and many people are looking to get into that, and we feel very fortunate to work with Score Draw.
Definitely, especially being in my band, the majority of most of our income comes through sync. We have publishing agreements that get us onto adverts. I think last time we were like on a Made in Chelsea advert, like 6-7 months ago or something like that. So sync is all the chat about streaming, and there's not much money left in that, but like sync and the opportunities for getting your music onto games and movies, to film, television, adverts, whatever. It's a big part of the industry now. It's probably one of the biggest parts of income for musicians nowadays. So I was really glad that we ended up doing that for our residency last year. That was my favourite one I did last year, especially working with all the other the students in my group. We made 3 pieces. They're all completely different. Over, was that a week? I don't even know if it was a week. It flew by. I wasn't sure if it was 5 days or 3 days. But it was fantastic. Even the opportunity, just getting to like listen to these guys who are working at the top of their industry and doing sync and all that. It's a gift to have that, and to learn from them and understand how it works on their level. So yeah, it's just great.
Well, I am very much looking forward to meeting you in person, Matt, in April, when we will come together in Stornoway on the Isle of Lewis for an intensive week of performances at the Anlanter Arts Centre in Stornoway, which is really fantastic, state of the art. Definitely my favourite bigger performance venue. I love intimate. There's plenty of beautiful intimate spaces around the Highlands and Islands to play, and all of these venues are so important. And our partnerships with organisations across the region is really important to our student experience. And so we will be meeting you face to face in Stornoway. So if there's anyone here that is wondering, they want to actually have a holiday or want to check in and see Applied Music live, we will be in Stornoway for a week of the 18th of April for that week, and we'll be having showcase concerts and just jam-packed honours performances throughout the week in the day, as well as assessments and workshops. And we'll be also showcasing much of the tradition from that area, so from the islands. So Matt, we will see you then, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to move on to introduce our final student guest, who is Marit. Is Marit with us? Hello, Marit.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Marit, you are right now, I believe, back home in the place where you're staying and calling home right now, which is where are you? I'm
in Askenage in Uist, but I've just come back yesterday from Germany, where I'm originally from, and from some concerts.
You've been away touring, performing gigs?
Yeah, we had some gigs in Denmark and Germany, and it was really great, and it was great to still be able to do the uni stuff last week, even though I've been away. That was really helpful.
Well, Marit plays trumpet, and I first met Marit when you were over visiting your friend Amelia, who had decided to come to the Isle of the Isle of South Uist, I think Amelia was living in then. She had decided to come over because we also have a lot of student activity and inspiration in this particular locality. And the traditions, the Gaelic music traditions, the various organisations across the islands, for instance, Keolis in South Uist, opportunities through community connectivity, and also across the islands, performance opportunities with the likes of Tai Kursava and Tai Kuel. And so Amelia came over, and Marit came to visit, and Amelia plays fiddle. And when Marit came to visit, I was in my office, because for those of you who don't know, I'm located in the Outer Hebrides myself, in Uist, and in my office, and I'm hearing the usual sounds, the strains of fiddles and pipes, but then there's a different sound that chimes in there, and there we go. We've got fiddle and trumpet, not quite the usual combination of sounds, but beautiful, and it was beautiful. And it was beautiful, Marit. And before, you didn't anticipate at that point, you weren't thinking, oh, I want to go and study music, were you?
I mean, I was when I was younger, but I never thought that I would be able to do so, because I really want to do traditional music, and there's not really a course in Germany to study trumpet and traditional music. But then here I was, and I've seen that I could have the opportunity to start studying it, and that was the beginning, kind of me thinking I should join the course.
So, I mean, it was great talking to you, because we just, one of the things about applied music is that accessibility, practical accessibility, inclusion, and creativity. It's, not many people would be thinking, hey, I play the trumpet, I think I'll go and do traditional music, traditional Gaelic music on the trumpet. But it's very exciting to explore possibilities. And Marit, you're at the vanguard of that with Gaelic trumpet album. I'm looking forward to a Gaelic music trumpet album one day. And so Marit then decided to come back, and you were supported through the Uist Music Scholarship.
Yes, finally I could come this year. Because of COVID, I couldn't come last year, but now I'm here. And yeah, I'm really, really happy and lucky to have got the scholarship, the Uist Music Scholarship, which really helps me and supports my musical journey this year. And in general, it helps me to be here. Yes, I'm really grateful for that.
Yes, well, it's wonderful to have you. And on applied music, and also in Scotland and in the islands, and lovely to also hear that you can still be flexible, and that's important too. We treat our students from the get-go on this course with that understanding that they're developing as professionals, and so their ability, it's important that ability to be able to manage your own time and your own priorities and follow the things that also interest you. It's the student-centered approach, and it's so important, especially with creativity. So at this point, Marit, I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I think there's quite a bit of chat, which is really nice. I'm not actually managing to catch up on it all, but we'll look at some of it later. But are there any questions, Jill, that Jill's my pal here, who is maybe going to help me if there's any particular questions?
Yeah, I've been, thank you very much, everybody, for your chats and talk about the courses, and it's really fascinating to hear much more about an area that I haven't been so much involved in the university. But yeah, we haven't had any questions in as such. I think people are just absorbing all the information and that they've heard today. But one thing I wanted to ask was, we've heard about the last 10 years. Where do you see the future of the music programs that we offer perhaps going? And what sort of direction? I don't know who might like to answer that one, and I look forward to some other questions in the chat in a minute.
That's such a good question, Jill. So we're always innovating every year with applied music, and the first thing this year is the fact that we've got the international validation. So that means that we can have students participating in this course wherever they may be. So that we're looking to that. We are now turning that Music Sync residency into new CPD modules, which we will be delivering also next year. And we've created quite an interesting narrative where we've had student placement with Score Draw Music in Northern Ireland, and our student Barry Nisbet, who graduate now, is taken this learning, and he's been employed by us also to develop some education CPD modules, short courses. So it's going to be really interesting working next year with these new strands. But also, this is a very good time to introduce Simon Bradley, who is the program leader for the MA Music and the Environment. So welcome, Simon. Because if we're talking about innovation and progression, then as soon as we, had launched applied music with the University of the Highlands and Islands with our first intake in 2012, that was quickly hot on the heels. We had MA Music and the Environment. And Simon, would you like to share your thoughts about the MA Music and the Environment as progression and where you're with that?
Yeah, thanks, Anna Wendy, and lovely to see everyone. I was just thinking, it's like being a family wedding, and I think that the applied music and the masters are great at facilitating collaborative connections and musical practice, and I think it really draws on the strengths of the university's use of technology and also the environment within the university and what it serves. And I think that's what really the masters strives to do. It's all about as our core module says, it's about the space, place, and the people as inspiration for musical practice. And it's based on thoughts of ecomusicology, which concerns itself with music and sound, culture and society, nature and the environment. And it's really about the environmental, historical and cultural context within which the university operates, and they're really the inspiration for research and creation of new knowledge that are the heart of the course. And it's been a wonderful privilege taking over from Mark here, and I'm working with the students. We have international students in China, Brazil, Switzerland, and each brings their own practice embedded with their own communities. It's multi-genre, there's lots of different backgrounds and demographics. And it's wonderful to bring, using the technology, using the curriculum, to bring everyone together. And I would just like to talk about some of the things that we do collaboratively. We're going to finish up with a collaboration with an external body, which I think really illustrates the Masters and the BA, which is with Community Land Scotland, but we'll park that for now. In the future, I think people were talking about the future, I'm working on a project with climate scientists within the university who are working to get the flow country recognised by UNESCO. I've got another project working with colleagues in forestry who are looking at the role of forest in carbon flux and using that and visualising that data musically. So it's a literal and conceptual relationship with the environment and using that to really ground and inspire people's musical practice. So I would just like to say that it's wonderful to be part of that, and I think that the future is bright, and it's just wonderful to hear the buy-in that people have, even from way back at the start of the journey, And I think that's really testament to what it offers. And I think it's a unique place within higher education within Scotland and perhaps even further afield.
Thank you, Simon. I think I said earlier on that, we're continually innovating because, it's not curriculum that we just roll out. It has to be responsive to the communities and the communities we find ourselves in, both physical and online, but also it has to be responsive to the opportunities within our own communities and cultural landscape, and in the music industry also, which is relevant to what I was talking about regarding Music Sync. And it's wonderful to see, looking in the chat there, one of our graduates has joined us here, alumni Paul, who is now working with Keolis in South Uist, doing a great job with them. And so thank you very much, Paul. And then there's a question from Ian about, what are the secrets of creating such satisfied groups of students, particularly given the logistical complexities of this wonderful program? Well, I'm going to answer that question. I think others can also answer as join in, but my first thing would be to say that I mentioned being students focused and also that being connected to communities as well and responsive to opportunity, but also as a staff team, we are we're very connected to one another. So I mentioned at the very beginning that we had won the Kate Award, which is a national award for collaborative teaching excellence. And we had put our submission in around our values, which are collaboration, community, and creating a sense of belonging. So that sense of belonging is so important within our program. So Simon, what would you have, or anyone else, to answer that message?
I just posted something to Ian. I didn't know you were going to get a chance, to Ian Morrison. I think it's been part of a community of practice. When we talk about community of practice, probably fields of practice now more than communities of practice. And the students can speak for themselves, but I always felt as if we were part of a democratic process. Everyone feels valued. The students feel valued, we feel valued, the staff has felt valued, and it's part of that sense of a community engaged in a creative journey. The value, the respect, and staff learn so much from the students as well, and help mould and shape, are flexible, are responsive. The curriculum shifts and changes, just like the environment round about us every day.
On that note, we could go on, and I would just, Simon, would you like to talk about this film clip? And I'd like to say, Mark, before that was well said. So we're going to finish up with a film.
Well, I think the film speaks for itself, but I think it really illustrates the collaboration over competition, the inclusiveness, the links to community, the forming of new communities, communities of practice, and just finding mutual interest and support and celebrating these qualities. And I think that the video shows itself. And this was actually work the students did on the Masters and the BA, and it was part of the curriculum, embedded within the curriculum. And this video I think, really touches lots of universal themes that resonate out with the university. So I think just go straight to the video.
I think the audio isn't working. Maybe play with the computer audio.
Okay, Apologies. Apologies. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes, we can.
The University of the Highlands and Islands is a wonderful university to be part of. It's just fantastic in the last 10 years, watching the institution grow from strength to strength and to be able to see the huge impact that it's had to be able to connect our communities locally, nationally and internationally. Communityland Scotland approached us to compose this piece of music. It was a wonderful opportunity for our students to collaborate, and I think they've done this really successfully.
My name's Ewan Henderson. I'm from the Lochaber area originally, but I live in Glasgow. At a time due to the COVID-19 pandemic, to have a creative stimulus such as this project, being able to engage with these different locations that have benefited from community land ownership around Scotland was a great bit of escapism. And being able to open up creative responses to that was just a lovely thing to be able to engage with at a difficult time.
So my name is Marit. I'm from Germany and I'm in the first year of applied music. My instrument is trumpet, so I'm trying to play Scottish traditional music on trumpet. I never really thought about community land because in Germany I've never heard something about it, but I really liked that people have a voice and get a voice. And so I really liked playing around with memories and connection between people. So I really liked the task.
My name's Liam Sutherland. I am a third year in the applied music course at UHI, and I'm originally from Caithness. We were sort of tasked with doing some research on Community Land Scotland and sort of talking about what that meant to us. So that was cool. That was cool to have someone come to UHI and say, we want you to write some music for us. It's a nice kind of taste of working in the professional world.
My name is Zach Scott and I'm a singer-songwriter based in Glasgow. I'm originally from Carnoustie in the northeast of Scotland. We were using new technology. None of us had done a music making process on a screen in this way before, whereby we were sharing one main sort of logic session and everyone was contributing ideas to it. That was really new.
My name is Zdenka. I'm originally from Slovakia, but I live in Scalloway in Shetland. I'm doing the third year BA Applied Music course. I think community land ownership is a good thing because it means that we leave something for the future generations, and it is always slightly easier when there is some sort of theme given before I start writing a song.
My name is Lucy Smith and I'm based in Moniaive in Dumfries and Galloway in southwest Scotland. It formed part of a module that was about collaboration. So it was a really fantastic opportunity for us to not only collaborate with each other, but actually collaborate with Community Land Scotland. To me, it's particularly important to be able to connect with people. And a musical connection is unlike any other connection that we see in any other parts of life.
Where's the wind sending out morning greetings? Oh, daisy, sea, soil and stone. I long to be one while I'm breathing, with my land where my heart has its home.
We've been encouraging working collaboratively online through our degree programs now for many years. We've probably been ahead of the curve in that respect.
We just started chucking some ideas about. We had Zoom meetings and we got a Dropbox on the go, and we would just, any ideas we had, we would put little snippets in there and bounce ideas back and forth that way.
Then you can put it together, and we learn in applied music how to work remotely, how to record remotely.
There are these great tools out there now to be able to share large amounts of data for distance learning.
Lucy, suggested that maybe we could find an image or a landscape taken from the Community Land Scotland website and trace it.
And then I combined those together and manipulated them to create what wasn't exactly a visual score, but something that we could work with in a way that you might work with a visual score.
And everybody keeps adding on top of that, and until the final track was ready, pretty much.
Students through this process, I feel, have learned more about one another through thinking about community and sharing their own experiences of their own communities.
Even just trying to work out each other's feelings and emotions towards community land ownership, because we're all coming at it from completely different angles. In the end, it turned out we were all roughly on the same page, which was good, but we didn't know that when we started out.
I really like that people can get their land back and have it as a community and work on it together.
It's given me an insight into something that's going on in Scotland, and suddenly you realise there's so much going on.
It just made total sense that the people who live there should make the decisions about the land itself.
I think it's an incredibly exciting thing, and it's really important to empower people to actually invest in their own communities and to keep making things sustainable.
It could be little things like, people just caring about each other. When there is an issue, everybody helps. And I like that.
I'd like to say thank you, Community Land Scotland, for offering us the opportunity to be creative and to collaborate and to contribute, hopefully, to our own communities.
Okay. I think I'm back on the screen. Yes. Well, thank you so much. I think that's a very nice way to end this session. And I would like to say it's been a joy to speak with you all and to have conversation. Thank you so much for our special guests and students, and also very much thank you to Jill, who's been a total star and support in getting this event ready. You'll realise from the chat that there are many, many more projects that and aspects that we could talk about, and maybe you can look at following us on social media at Applied Music UHI, and you'll catch much more news and be able to see some of the projects that we're working on currently. I mentioned that we have some new films that are coming out made by students themselves, and we'll be starting that with the Far-Flung Collective tomorrow night. So we're going to end and say thank you again so much, and here's to the next 10 years.